Welcome back. It is still the discussion segment on Global Morning. This is the weekend edition. What a fantastic discussion we've had concerning productivity and resourcefulness. Let's take you to Edo State like I promised when we got started. What's happening in Edo State?
Ondo.
The Ondo State, I beg your pardon. Ondo State, the election, I tell you, the obstacle election is getting very serious. The Aida Tiwa, and of course, the other persons involved. Then talk about the peace accord that was being signed. This peace accord has been signed from time to time, times without number. And of course, the INEC chairman coming to say, well, we've learned our lesson from what happened in Edo State. Ondo is going to be different. All right, let's see how the difference is going to play out. Already in the papers this morning, we've heard that rice and gari is being given to people. People are being wowed with rice and gari in Edo State, but there is hunger in the land. Don't you think that is going to be detrimental to the election? Joining me is an ex-lawmaker, and of course, he is Honorable Cletus Obun. He's right here with me on the program. Good morning, sir.
Good morning for having me on this do matters, a do or undo.
Yes.
And we're back here to deal with that.
Yeah, let's look at the peace accord that has been signed. This peace accord, oftentimes during elections, we'll see parties signing it and delegates signing it, and especially people who are vying for the position sign it. Has it really made any difference?
Well, to some degree, you will say that it's like a warning sign, a sign of caution, a caution sign to a road user. That is what it is to players and political actors. Otherwise, it has become more of a ritual, but a ritual that is necessary for us to get the thing done rightly. Whether it has had an impact, if you look at Edo, for example, with the threat of violence and accusations and allegations of intention to commit violence and disrupt the public peace in Edo State, even when PDP refused to sign the peace accord. But we could see that to a large extent there was some peace in that election, because we have major incidents of violence that we normally will find with the main political talks and actors in that state. But this time around, even when one of the parties, especially the ruling party, refused to sign, there still was some level of peace. You could give it 80-90% of peaceful election in Edo State. So if a man like Abdul Salami, an international peacekeeper, both as a combatant in the army and as a former head of state and now playing the role for the entire African continent, comes to sit over a matter, and people like Father Bishop Kuka, the one father of Sokoto diocese, you definitely will come to think that now it may look like something to play with, but in the future we find that that peace accord will definitely become a major instrument to weigh the options about what the intention of a political party is and what a political actor intends to do. If he signs or does not sign, it can begin to weigh in on the voters' decision about whether to vote for them or not. But for now, like I said, it is more like a ritual.
Now, let's talk about Ondo State election specifically right now. In the papers this morning, it's been said that the voters are being wooed with gari and rice. Looking at the hunger in the land, don't you think this will be a threat to a free and fair election in Ondo State?
I don't know why we like to gaslight ordinary political tactics and strategies of politicians in an election cycle. Only recently, my friends were sending me footages and videos of things that Trump sent to their boxes, food items as well. Are they also hungry in America? Is that also vote buying? If you walk to a man's house and start walking a road to his place on the eve of an election, is that vote buying? If you build a borehole in an election cycle during campaigns and go and drill boreholes rapidly in 4 or 5 communities that you know are intensely populated in terms of votes, will we be said to be doing vote buying? That because you put water in the place to show that, look, if I can do this as a private citizen, now I'm coming in as a governor or as a senator, I can do more. Is that vote buying? We must have to differentiate between weighing, lobbying, and persuading voters. It is not done by rhetoric. It is by actions. For instance, look at Abakumosa in those states. Whenever he didn't go for campaigns, if that is his political strategy, how will that become a problem?
But then, why are you waiting until it's time for election before you do it? If you want to be a philanthropic, you should be known for philanthropism. Why waiting until election is 4, 5, 6 days before you begin to bring out the philanthropic in you?
Now, philanthropy is not in any way related to elections. Why do you begin to talk very nicely only during elections? Because that is the season for it. You don't walk to the streets or walk into somebody's farm and start preaching to him that he should go to heaven. You don't do that. That is for reading, for clearing. And what you are praying for in the morning is, God bless the work of my hands. You don't go to farm to preach. You go to church to preach. So on the period of election, you go to the field to promote people by any means possible, provided it is allowed by law. Does it infringe on any of our laws? I do not think so. None of our laws have been violated by the simple giving of items. In any case, you come to tell people vote for me and then you walk away and say, I don't want to be seen to be influencing them, not to show my philanthropy at this point. I was giving the example of Ondo State. What they do, I went there to do an undercover job to see who was doing what and to give my expert opinion to my party. And I discovered the man had been doing that over the years, long before he ever aspired to run any election. He's been doing that persistently in his community. The peace, the security outfits in his area, he contributes clothing, torchlights, and all sorts of things to the youth, pays them for some months when the community cannot pay an order. So in the case of Ondo State, just mere garri and bread. And then everybody is not shouting as if it is worse than people who never even as much as show me. Do you want to introduce hunger? You are showing me this is what I can do. This is the first of what I do. Even Christ I know, what did he not do? When you were saying advertising and he was going to everything, he was not advertising, he was saying, give me a foretaste of what he can do. Why? When you turn around to when we did that at the wedding.
Honorable, let's call spade a spade right now. We're talking about free and fair election here. And people doing what they are supposed to do, voting the right person. The essence of election is to vote the right person. Then, if for any reason the wrong person is being voted because probably somebody needs to eat, all right, and you give the person food because the person is hungry, and the person votes who the person really don't like, but because the person has been conscientized or maybe psychologically motivated emotionally to vote for that person, is that okay?
Now, let me say this to you. When you deal with persuasion, which is rhetoric, every means of persuasion, even by mere dressing. Some people win election by their dressing only. This man is very fine. So whatever you can use to persuade people to vote for you is legitimate. And that is why you call it campaign. Campaign means anything that you can do to make somebody vote for you. That does not also mean the illegalities that the rules forbid. Once you don't break those rules, if you now accept that you will sell your birthright, good governance, for a loaf of bread or some cups of garri and cups of rice, so be it that you take 4 cups of rice, 1 cup per year. For the period the man is going to be there, for the 4 cups you have collected, you don't need anything again from him. It cannot be because of, please, a man who has principles, there is dignity in poverty. There is dignity in poverty, and you can see people reject it. Go to the book of Maccabees. Even here today, as I speak to you, I know I sat in a position in Crossriver State for more than 20 years. I know that the supporters that we have still stand by that till today. Not, in fact, even when you go to a polling unit or to collection center, and the ruling party brings food and water for people who have waited all night for election material, they will reject it. They refuse to collect it. So when a man now goes to court and says it is because of hunger, and some people give you an excuse that he's stealing because of hunger, why don't you steal because of hunger? There are people that can stand hunger and prefer to die than to go and steal because it's in them. So when people sell their birthright, it is a decision. And that is one thing God gave to man, your ability to make choices. So if you make the choice that you want to collect anything and then give the wrong person a position which you know is going to affect you for 4 years, then that is your decision and you stand by it.
Honorable, let's get to INEC now saying, they've learned their lesson. The INEC chairman said they have learned their lessons from what happened in Edo State, and for Ondo State, it's going to be a different ball game altogether. Now, looking at that statement, what would you have to make out out of it. Because if you look at elections in Nigeria, he even talked about logistics and management and a whole lot of other things. Can we say, all right, INEC now will do something different? Because a lot of times you hear things like, go to court if you're not satisfied.
No, what INEC is saying has been shown. There is an incremental developmental progress being made from the INEC end. Off-cycle elections, don't forget, are concentrated in one area, and the demographics are different. Polling units are less, movement is less related to a state. Ondo State, 1 square meter of Ondo State. So it is easy to carry material there, because some of the challenges you keep hearing about is late arrival of materials, delay in collation, failure of technology, and such other things. And I know the same. Look, for each election, we take the lessons and improve on the next one. And you can see that there was nothing like late arrival of materials in the Ondo State election. There are no such things. The little challenges they have, we don't also hear about technology failure. Less and less of that is now occurring because they are perfecting it, and there is less traffic and therefore less problem for technology. So when INEC says that they are going to improve, you can see between 2011 and today, INEC has tremendously improved. We may not like their results, but you will agree with me on sector by sector, item by item, INEC has dramatically improved with each election. So the use of technology, you can imagine that Trump is even rejecting technology in America. The owners of technology.
Now you're taking us to the United States. This is the second time you're making reference to the United States.
Yes.
When you talked about Donald Trump sharing food for people, now you're talking about it again. What are the take-homes from the U.S. election for the Nigerian system, the democracy that we have? What are the take-homes from the U.S. election?
U.S. has to learn from Nigeria. We have very little to learn with Trump as president. We have very little to learn because his tactics have been rough, punitive, very intimidating, harassing, and sufficiently racist. So for me, he is not a good example of how to learn democracy. He is an anti-democratic agent, and I think that America is in for it.
No, we're not talking about the.
We are talking about the process. I'm talking about the process, and that's why it is timid. It is primitive. It is rough tactics. He gaslighted everybody and generated unnecessary tension in America and brought again his gender biases and his racist tendencies. They were all manifest. So there is nothing to learn from him except to learn that, in any case, look at the way the Americans even voted. This is the first time they have voted a woman.
Honorable, get it right. I'm not talking about learning from Trump. I'm talking about learning from the electoral process that brought him into office, not the individual now.
The individual is important because take him away, the campaigns will never be the same. So the campaign tactics and the processes from the electoral bodies. I have been curious as a political scientist to question the issue of superdelegates, where the vote of 30 people is better than the vote of 300 people. They have to teach us how that demographic works. If democracy is government of the people, by the people, and for the people, and majority of the people are saying this is the person we want, and then 10 people say we don't want him. Is that not segregation? Is that not discriminatory? Is that not repressive? And everybody is trying to make us understand it. I have refused to understand that. How the superdelegate is better than the ordinary people who are going to feel the impact of governance. Because the majority of the people are not being undermined for a few persons, elitist persons sitting there, and the Americans are being adjudged one of the best. How do you adjudge that two people vote, you call them superdelegates? Now, if it is proportional voting, like we have federal house and senate, in Nigeria it may be the quality of states, 3 persons per state. In America they are telling you that 500 people are less than 5 people. So if somebody who has 500 votes will lose because the super people, that is the super delegates, are 4 that voted for you and 6 voted for their man. So 10 people are more than 500 people. They have to explain that to us and tell us why it should be so and why we should copy it. Can you do that in Nigeria? Do the world here. So is that what we should be learning from? So the electoral process also is undergoing reforms after 250 years. We are just 64. America is 250 years a democracy. Britain is about more than 150 years. They are producing less and less female leaders. Less and less female leaders. In fact, they have not produced one female president. Not even by accident. Not even as a deputy.
No. Too. Haven't produced one.
At 64. at 250 years. We are even living there because our women are becoming leaders in different places.
So let me ask, do you foresee Nigeria having a female president in anytime soon?
We are. Look at the confidence we have generated in the world with Amina, with Okonjo-Iweala and others. If they can do that to the world, why wouldn't they do it in Nigeria? Why can't they come and rule Nigeria?
Would they actually be allowed to do that? To come into the...
It's not a matter of allowance. Stop the concept of allowance. That is what I don't agree with women each time they say allowed. Women have been senators here. Women have been deputy governors here. Women have run for governorship. We saw what the Matarada did. We saw the other one in Adamawa almost winning the election. Next we could. So if we can get that right, why won't we? We saw Itiaba becoming acting governor in Ondo at a point. We've seen others like that across Nigeria. We have even done more on the African continent and especially in Nigeria for women than the entire two civilizations of United Kingdom and America put together. What we have done for women in Nigeria, they have not done 1/3 of it, because on the African continent we have female presidents all over the place. They have not cumulatively put together. So I think they have more to learn from us, and we are beginning to teach them that way.
Has a very, very unique perspective right here, that the United States of America will need to learn from Nigeria as it has to do with politics. Well, that is his own point, that's his own view, and that's his own perspective. And like you are thinking right now, what do you think, all right, should be done in Nigeria to make the electoral process more formidable and better than it is right now? Because growth and, of course, our success has no limit. You can keep improving day by day. We're looking forward to what will come out from Ondo State for the governorship election that is coming with a full force. Thank you very much, Honorable Cletus Obun, former lawmaker, for joining us today on the conversation.
Thank you for having me, and may Nigeria be blessed.
Nigeria be blessed. That's always your prayer for this country, and I love it that you are always very, very positive about this nation. This is going to be the size of this discussion. We're coming up with the next discussion, which has to do with creativity and looking inside of you to see what you can contribute to the society as an individual. Join us after this break for the next discussion.
Global Morning is your ultimate destination for engaging political and economic matters. I am Uyi Agmofrebe.
And don't forget to include social discussions.